I was really angry when I played Stardew Valley, and there are ways to get around that, to be fair. You can poison people with the mushroom, but then you can also bake it into a cake. That's probably going to come probably a month or two.
Will this be coming to the Switch? Do you have any information or anything you can share about that? Hey guys, Josh here, and I just had the chance to interview the developers behind Echoes of the Plum Grove, which is an upcoming farming sim that takes inspiration from Paper Mario, The Sims, and it just looks super cute. I'm very excited for this game, and they're currently doing a Kickstarter campaign, so I'll put the link to that in the description. So I talked with Sarah, who works on the art, and Erik, who works on the programming. They're a couple who've been working on this game together for over 5 years now. And it was actually my second time chatting with them, but I don't do interviews very often on this channel. So if I looked nervous, I was really nervous. So hopefully I will get better at this the more I do them. So don't mind me. But yeah, I learned lots of interesting information about this game. So I hope you guys enjoy it. All right, let's start. So hi, Sarah and Erik. Thank you so much for joining me today. First of all, I would like to congratulate you on your Kickstarter campaign that has been funded in less than 90 minutes. So yes. That is pretty impressive. How does it feel?
Pretty exciting. I don't think we expected that kind of reception on the first day, which was awesome. And yeah, it was just fun to see the numbers go up. And this is our first Kickstarter we've ever done.
I've backed 100 Kickstarters, I think, in the past. So it's interesting to be on the other side of that.
Yeah.
How would you describe your game in a few words?
Cozy.
With consequences?
Yeah.
That's
usually the line we go with, is cozy with consequences, because it's cozy, but there's elements of strain that matter. So you have to save for the winter because you can't grow crops during the winter. So if you don't save enough food to eat or money so that you can buy from other villagers, you'll starve. And then there's diseases. So we have 6 diseases for the game. Some of them are detrimental. Some of them are very easy to get over. And depending on if you need medicine to overcome them, you have to pay money. So you have to make sure you sell enough food, and it's a whole thing. And then the other situation is we also have taxes in the game, which is a common occurrence. So every week you have to pay your taxes, and they go up depending on how well your farm is doing. And you'll always have to pay the mayor. We are going to have an option in the mailbox to pay the mayor your taxes without having to go hunt him down, which I think some people will like, because it's going to get kind of taxing after, literally taxing after a while. And then, so cozy with consequences is kind of, yeah.
That's definitely one thing that I noticed when I was going through the Kickstarter campaign. I feel like a lot of cozy games are releasing recently, and a lot of them don't have too much challenge. Are you considering any kind of difficulty levels? So if someone wants to jump into this game, they like the art style, but they're maybe afraid of running out of food, or they're stressed about their taxes. Are you planning any kind of difficulty scaling or ways to balance that?
We're definitely thinking about accessibility options. Removing player death might be one of the things, removing NPC death so that it kind of all stays in the same place. Removing the need to pay taxes, to sleep, to eat. Things that we've already gotten some amount of people who are asking for those things, and we definitely want to put them through. It's always kind of like, we want it to be as accessible as we can, but have the base game similar to what we wanted.
But we also kind of want to go the opposite direction and maybe make diseases just more, they happen more often.
Yeah, we could have that in the diseases. The frequency of normal and then the frequency of that's fine.
Yes. So we're going to have that. And then, maybe we'll also have lifespan changes so that you can have a shorter lifespan if you want to play that way.
Yeah.
Or if you want to extend life longer, like Sims. I know Sims has this.
Yes.
But yeah, making it as open as possible is a big deal for us to make sure that people can play the way they want to, like whether they want to play completely cozy with no consequences, maybe food is significantly reduced or just doesn't exist, and you just want to run around and collect stuff and fish and just basically completionist our game. You can play that way. Or, if you want more
challenge,
yeah, you can increase diseases, because we made sure that the diseases that we have in game roughly equal out like what it was like back in the colonial period in the 1700s. Like the smallpox had a 30% chance of killing someone. Like, it was a big deal back then to avoid getting this disease. We put that in the game. So when I've played it through a couple times, it has killed off 30% of the village, which is like roughly around like 15 people. And it's really sad because you'll see in the calendar, like funeral. It's really bad. And then after all the funerals are done, and if the ship hasn't come yet, because depending on how many people have died on certain days, so we won't have new, fresh people come to the island until the ships come into port. So it's, so you'll just have a more empty village, which is, it's really interesting to play.
So I was wondering what happens if your character dies and there's no one else in your family to take over if you don't have any children or spouse. Is it like game over? Or is there going to be a way to keep playing?
Currently, it's game over, but we've been asked about this, and we want to make it so that there's a way in which you can continue playing as either someone new to the island or maybe someone else on the island. But usually, it's not too difficult to get someone else into your family. And also, we want to put in an option that even if you haven't married, that you can maybe adopt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we wanted to add in more options for different play styles.
Yeah. So when you switch from one character to the other, what carries over? Do you keep all of your skills? Do you keep your inventory, or do you kind of like start from the beginning again?
Inventory is definitely kept. That's already in. Skills are going to be a different story, since skills are based upon what the character has done in the past. If it's a kid and they've gone to school, then they'll have like their base skills all pretty good already. If they were sent to be an apprentice and like worked there, then they get skills related to that job.
Oh,
so if they were sent to the blacksmith, they'll have better crafting skills by the time you take them over.
You also have the ability to keep your kids on your farm to help you out, along with your spouse. If you want your spouse to go apprentice somewhere else, they can. They can bring money back, and they can bring their skill sets back from those apprenticeships, but also your family can just help you farm, and they'll gain the farming skill. And this is why we had skills for kids be a thing in our game, was because of this. You can't bring your skill set. When you die, you lose all your skills. But if you build your family up properly, you won't start off with 0 again. You'll start off with a skill set. And you can change around how you do skills every time. Because sometimes when I've played in Stardew Valley, like you're kind of set. Like you can't really change your skills if you change your mind later on. Like, oh, I don't want this skill. I want this skill. This allows you to kind of rebuild yourself.
The perk choices.
Yeah, the perk choices I meant.
Yeah, so you can specialize when you're farming, specialize in your crops or your animals, and then your offspring can specialize in the other one instead.
Yeah.
So is there going to be kind of like a skill tree with like perks?
Currently, that's the one area of the UI.
It's a skill tree of, I think, 4, basically.
Okay.
You pick one of each skill, and then later on you pick one of each of those specialized skills off of that.
Yeah.
So each skill has 6 different perks associated with it.
I have a few questions from our community that I would like to ask, and I think these are all questions that a lot of people are wondering. And we're going to start with an easy one. What inspired you to make a farming sim in the colonial era?
I picked it because I wanted to. Well, the style of the game and the era we chose was specifically because I needed to make all the art myself, and I needed to pick a style that I could do on my own. So Paper Mario was kind of the direction we went in for the look. And then I also wanted to, because we have survival in the game, and I really wanted survival. It was one of the biggest reasons why I didn't like Stardew, fully. I like RimWorld and I played so much RimWorld and I go back to it because you can constantly just, things are happening and things are changing. Oh, you're going to get punched with disease, or a raid is happening. You have to, deal with it. So keeps you on your toes. And all I really wanted to do was have a more realistic version of playing cozy games where you have to survive the winter. And the colonial period, a lot of people go medieval, and we didn't want to go that way because we wanted to have a sense of village life, but we wanted it to be in a more sophisticated era. so that they were just starting to learn about diseases and properly treat them. They were just starting to, come together and have different jobs besides just being a farmer or a king. Like you can be a printing press was a big thing back then. You could be a tailor. You could be other things. They were starting to really kind of come together as a community. But there were still, during the winter, you still had to survive. So it was still right on the cusp of modern life versus you live in like filth and stuff. We wanted to kind of be in the middle of that. And I also personally love like colonial, like looking houses and the brick and the style. And we actually went to Colonial Williamsburg to really do some research on the game. So I took a lot of photos. I asked tons of questions. I have like pages and pages on a book, just notes that we took and we applied to the game based on the look of what a colonial town was back then. Obviously, because it's a stylized game, we did take some artistic changes to it. But overall, the look of the game, I did look at realistic, what it looked like back then.
As you said, you took some liberties to like go out of historically accurate things. And also one part of this game is the magic. So we'll have ghosts and witches. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Originally, we were going to try and keep this all hush-hush until the launch of the game, but I've realized that a lot of people want to know about this. So there is magic in the game. We have witches, we have pirates, we have ghosts, and we have mermaids in the game as well. So out of all the magical creatures, we really worked on our ghosts the most. One of the cool things about ghosts is that if you die, you can sometimes find yourself, your old self, when you play as your kid or your significant other. You can go find your old person and do a quest for your old self, depending on who you were as a person when you were alive. So that's one unique thing that we really wanted to have in the game.
I know one thing a lot of people will want to know is, can you marry the witches and the mermaids? Or
so no, you cannot. The witches have unique skin tones, have unique outfits. In fact, I actually baked in their hair to their head. So in our simulator, you can swap out hair, swap out glasses and all that. Well, with witches and mermaids, it's almost all baked in because I didn't have the time to make them unique. I might change my mind on that because I have a feeling a lot of people are going to want their hair.
Yeah.
And I know people want colored hair. We already have so many like dyeable options and so many hair choices to make more of that, because I made every dye by we didn't do like a color wheel option. I really found that a lot of color wheel options, like when you do a certain color of the outfit, it looks terrible. And I wanted to make sure every color is working properly. But overall, yeah, I couldn't go crazy with the magical creatures we have, because the focus is more on the sim part. We really focused really hard on making the village really come to life and making them feel like they're alive. The things are happening without you. Weddings, funerals, events, they'll do them without you. Like you don't have to participate, but they're going to run around and do their hobby. They're going to run around and do their job. They're going to run around and be sick. Like that's what we put all our energy towards as, two devs of the game. So, no magic. You can't marry them. And they don't die either. They're basically immortal.
So this game is going to be very sandboxy, a lot of inspiration from The Sims. Some people were wondering, will there be a main storyline? Will there be like a plot to follow? Or are you mostly just do your own thing?
Yes, there's a story. It is very simple, though. It is basically, you have pillars that you have to, basically it's skill oriented. So if you max out your skills, there's a bunch of requirements down in the area that we have the story going to. Not going to say more than that. And basically you're kind of guided towards that area, and then you have to fulfill pillars. And then if you fulfill the pillars, something happens. And that's basically the story. The focus of our game isn't the story, but there is going to be a story. And some of them it's a long-term goal. So one of them is you have to marry someone. So you have to kind of go through the basic line of, basic function of the game. And yeah, one of them is marrying people. And that could take time if you're, if your significant other dies that you wanted to marry, or or they left the island, or
married someone else. We don't really have protection for that right now.
So, and we don't have protection. Yeah, they'll just marry someone else and be like, "No, I'm taken." And there are ways to get around that. To be fair, we do have poisoning to an extent. I am a mushroom hunter here in the Pacific Northwest, so I see a lot of mushrooms that you shouldn't ingest, and some people won't know that. And in fact, that's happened a couple times when we've watched people play our demo. And they'll just eat stuff, and then they'll be like, and they'll be like, "Whoa, what happened?" And that's what happens. Like they die. So,
and they're like, "Oh, I should have read the description.
I should have read the description because it's literally in the description." But so there are ways that you can potentially poison others if you want to potentially marry the person that they're with, or you just want them out of the village. It's not.
It's completely optional. So.
It's completely optional. You don't have to do it. Our game is one giant, you don't have to do it. But yeah, you can also, so you can poison people with the mushroom, but then you can also bake it into a cake, because some people will know if they have a high foraging skill. If a villager, like if you try to poison like Walter, who's the hunter, he'll know what it is. So the best way to get around that is to bake it into a cake.
Another question was, will there be any animals you can ride, or maybe just ways to walk faster or run faster or anything like that?
So yes, I was really angry when I played Stardew Valley, and yeah, you had to get the horse, or you had to buy coffee. You didn't get to make your own. So we have a coffee tree, and you can make coffee. It's a tree that you can get for the summer, and if you plant it, it does take time to grow. It takes a whole season, but if you plant it early enough, you can enjoy some coffee that way. We also have the ability to buy coffee, so you have both. And we also have fast travel, so you can fast travel to points. We did not have any other ability to ride animals. We didn't do any animations that way. The farm animals we have are the ones we will launch with, because we did not realize that animals are so in depth to design. We didn't really realize that, so we didn't put enough time towards doing our animals properly. So that's one area of our game that we have to revisit before we launch, because it's not polished yet. So yeah, no horses. They will not be in for launch. But fast travel exists, and you can fast travel anywhere. You can just open up your map, click on a signpost, and just go. And coffee. And you can make your own coffee.
And the witch might also sell something that helps you out.
Yes. Oh. So we will spend more on a potion from the witch. You more or less will probably have all day of walking quicker. But currently the walking speed we have for the demo right now, that's what it's going to be at launch. We're not changing the pace of what you currently have. So
yeah, this brings me to another question. So in this game, you will have to eat, which is something we're not necessarily used to in like farming games. It's more of like a survival game element. So how difficult is it going to be to like make sure your character eats and sleeps? Is it going to be tedious or challenging for most players, or it's something pretty easy?
Sleeping shouldn't be tedious. Your character sleeps 8 hours a day, and it's easy just to click on your bed and just do until I'm rested, just sleep that long. You get a little bit of buffer, so if you want to spend more time working one day than the other, then you can do that. We don't have an energy system as farming games normally do, so it's not like, you can only do so many things in a day, and then you have to like figure out how to spend that energy. It's all time-based, more like that. Hunger is a little bit different. It doesn't seem too difficult right now, especially during like spring, when you can go to the cherry tree and eat a cherry. I think it's a little bit unbalanced right now with the cherries, because they feed you more than a journey cake does.
Oh. We're aware of the bugs, so yeah.
But yeah, we're going to try to make it not challenging during the first 3 seasons, but make it a thing you have to do.
Does the game warn you that in winter there's not going to be a lot of food?
So we have the NPCs talk about it a good amount when you're talking to them. They're just like, "Oh, winter is a thing that we have to worry about. So make sure to do your thing." A lot of our like kind of helpful messages are on the NPCs themselves when they're talking. You should be able to upgrade your house, and your house will have a cellar that will. Not sure if we're going to get this in for the full launch or not. If you need ice to keep it.
So we have a little ice house in the village where this is a period thing that we added in was, back then you had to go collect your ice from the town. Unless you were rich enough, like the governor, to have your own personal ice house, which we did not allow. Everyone has to share. And so if you go pick up ice, we'll have basically ice boxes, which are already being designed, like I already am working on them. And it'll preserve a certain amount of food. So you're going to have to pick what you preserve and what you don't. And that's why you want to make sure that when you grow food, you're growing food that can preserve longer. And then either you're making food to earn as a cash crop, because that's what they did back then. A lot of times they had tobacco or they had indigo, and they would only grow those things to sell. And then they'd grow things specifically to like keep for their winter stock. So you have to kind of be smart about how you're doing your farming that will work with your hunger and feeding your family. And then we're also going to have, again, the cellar. You should be able to unlock your second tier house probably around fall. Usually I'd say is probably like the roughly area you get that. And then you get married. And then usually I'm going to assume, again, everyone plays differently at different paces. So it's kind of hard to tell you, like, this is it, because it's, I'm not going to play that way.
Yeah, when me and Sarah play now, we know where to go and how to do that.
Yeah, you know everything.
Yeah, exactly. We know everything. So it's like, I am so sick of spring because I've played so much of spring.
We're really looking forward to the beta test, because then we can have people play our game who haven't before, really. So that they'll go through the longer game and know how difficult things are to do, and come up with their own strategies for making money.
And if you are interested in backing us, we do have a beta option in our Kickstarter that also, just so everyone knows, like that is going to come relatively soon. That's not going to come in like 6 months. That's probably going to come probably a month or two. Like it's going to be pretty quick that we're going to have beta access for everyone. So
how much content can we expect from the beta?
Yeah, all seasons are in. We don't have it balanced past spring yet, but that's something that we plan on doing within the next month. So during our Kickstarter, we'll be fixing all the balancing stuff. And then a good amount. All the people work.
It's basically the full game.
It's basically the full game, honestly. Like we're so kind of close.
We're gonna fix bugs and do polish and stuff, but yeah, I think we have basically full access of all the events, all the story.
Oh, the only thing we don't really have quite yet is decorating your house. I haven't worked on it yet, so
but that might still be in. So.
That might be in, but no promises, because it's a lot of work and I haven't even started.
It depends on if we launch it like end of the year or a little bit after the end of the year. So we'll have to see how many features we get in for the beta.
Okay, that's amazing. And do you have any date or like quarter or any estimates for the full launch?
So I can safely say, because of where we are currently, we are definitely launching within the first half of next year. We're not going to launch anytime at the end of the next year. It's going to be early next year. I can't say which, because there's so many, like localization is one of them. Like we haven't done any localization for other languages yet. We don't know which ones we should have. We don't know if things are going to take longer because something happens. We could launch next to a game that's really big that everyone wants to play, and we don't want to launch during that time, so we might delay that because of that. That happened when we actually had some of our friends play like very early on in the game. We didn't even have publishers yet. We asked some people to play for us, and they were like, oh yeah, sure, we'll play. And then Zelda came out, and so no one wanted to play because they wanted to play Zelda, which totally get. Zelda's awesome. So we just want to make sure that when we launch, we have a safe window to launch in. So we're probably going to tell you that probably next year.
The big question that I think everybody's wondering, will this be coming to the Switch? Do you have any information or anything you can share about that?
Well, we're trying.
We're trying.
Well, we're trying to figure out the numbers on this to try and get it as a Kickstarter stretch goal. And if we don't release it, Kickstarter is probably going to be more about the line of we launch it sooner than later. We want to eventually get it on Switch regardless of whether or not the Kickstarter gets to that point. But it's definitely like our number one priority after launching on the PC.
Yeah, it's a give and take with what we can do, with our publishers, what we can do. And just, we know it's going to be a separate launch from our PC launch. So that is definitely going to be separate. But yeah, we just have to figure out the logistics behind like financially where it sits on the Kickstarter. I think that's like the biggest question right now. But yeah, it's definitely a priority because our game is so obviously Nintendo
It will be
inspired.
perfect.
So,
yes.
Yes. We've tested it on mobile, and our game even reads on mobile. So we know it's going to work well for the Switch too.
That was like 4 years ago.
That was 4 years ago.
Okay. Would you consider maybe a mobile version in the future? No, not really.
No.
Not in the immediate, no.
No. It would be a lot of work. And our game it worked well on mobile because our game, this was like 2 years into development. So it looked really great, but we had no content in. We
didn't have any like text or anything because that's going to be an issue with mobile. Is like, oh, how well can you read these items? And
even on the Switch, like the small screen, sometimes it's a lot of problem with games that get ported from PC to Switch. Like sometimes the text is just too small and it's kind of a pain. Yeah. So will your game be playable with a controller?
It's pretty good with controller already. There are a few pain points that I need to address, but yeah, controller's pretty good. We've had friends play it on their Steam Decks and they've enjoyed it. We probably should get a Steam Deck so that we can test that fully too. Controller is great. Apparently, like people are like, oh, this is actually almost better on controller than it is on keyboard and mouse because it's like if you press the A button, it'll like talk to the person who's closest or interact with the closest thing. So it's almost like I think someone said it's like I could just do this one-handed because of how easy these controls are.
I guess it's gonna make the port a little bit easier because you already have the basis for the controller support, so that's good. Thank you so much. I think we covered a ton of things. If people are interested in Echoes of the Plum Grove, I'll put the link to the Kickstarter campaign in the description. And I think there is still a demo playable on Steam, right? If people want to check it out.
Yes.
The demo should be playable until the Kickstarter, and we might have it running a little bit after that. We need to
So December 4th is the Kickstarter end day, so it'll be until then for sure.
Until then, and then shortly after we'll get to play the badass. I'm very, very excited for that. Yeah. Well, is there anything else you would like to say to people who are looking forward to this game before we wrap up?
Join our Discord. It's our favorite place to talk to our fans.
Yeah, we are always on Discord. Always. We love talking to people. We love answering questions. We're actually going to be starting a video chat once a month with our fans on Discord so that you can ask in person any questions because sometimes it's hard to type all the time. So yeah, we're very active on Discord. So join us there.
All right. So I'll put the link to that in the description as well. That's pretty much it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that was my interview with Sarah and Erik, the developers behind Echoes of the Plum Grove. Let me know what you thought of this interview, and if you'd like to see more content like this, also feel free to let me know in the comments any developer you'd like me to have a chat with on this channel. But that's going to be it for today, so feel free to leave a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you don't want to miss out on more content, and I'll see you all in the next video.